I didn't belong in that room. That much was obvious the second the doors sealed behind me. The chamber was massive, cathedral big, all black stone and slow-moving alien light that crawled across the walls like it was alive. Banners hung from the ceiling, heavy fabric stitched with symbols I couldn't read but somehow felt in my chest. Power, history, conquest. This was where decisions were made that erased planets. And I was just a human. No armor. No weapon. Just a clean uniform they'd given me because apparently dragging a half-dead human savior into a royal audience covered in blood was considered bad optics. Rows of alien nobles stood on either side of the hall. Tall. Sharp-featured. Some with glowing eyes. Others with horns, scales, metallic implants fused straight into bone. Every single one of them watched me like I was an unexploded bomb. At the far end of the room sat the throne. The AlienQueen. She hadn't entered yet, but her presence was already there. You could feel it. The way gravity itself seemed to lean forward, waiting. The way even the nobles stood unnaturally still, like statues afraid to breathe wrong. Beside me stood her. The princess. She was smaller than the others, still young by their standards. Her posture was stiff, hands clenched at her sides like she was holding herself together by force alone. The soft ceremonial robes they dressed her in couldn't hide the faint scars along her wrists. Scars I recognized. Because I'd put pressure on them myself, weeks ago, while explosions shook the sky and the evacuation alarms screamed. She leaned closer to me and whispered, barely moving her lips. "She's coming." As if on cue, the room shifted. The massive doors behind the throne slid open without a sound, and the AlienQueen stepped through. Every noble dropped to one knee in perfect synchronization. Heads bowed. Eyes lowered. Absolute submission. I stayed standing. Not because I was brave. Not because I was stupid. But because nobody had told me to kneel, and at this point, I was done guessing what aliens expected from me. The Queen walked forward slowly, her steps echoing across the stone like distant thunder. She was tall, taller than the rest, with an elegance that didn't come from beauty alone. This was the kind of presence forged by centuries of command. Her crown wasn't decorative. It was functional, woven with alien tech and ancient symbols that pulsed faintly with energy. Her eyes swept across the room. Cold. Calculating. Then they landed on her daughter. For the first time, something shifted in her expression. Not softness. Not relief. Recognition. Concern. "My daughter," the Queen said, her voice carrying effortlessly. "You have returned." The princess swallowed. I felt it beside me. That tiny hitch of breath. "Yes, mother." The Queen's gaze flicked to me. Just for a moment. And then she stopped walking. Completely. The room froze with her. It wasn't dramatic at first, no gasp, no outburst. Just a pause that stretched 1 second too long. The kind that makes every instinct in your body start screaming. Her eyes narrowed, focusing on my face like she was comparing me to something she'd hoped never to see again. Silence swallowed the hall. I could feel hundreds of eyes snap toward me now. Confused. Alarmed. Some hostile. The Queen took one slow step closer. Then another. Each one felt like it pressed directly against my spine. "You," she said quietly. That was it. Just one word. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. Every response I'd rehearsed died instantly. "Your Majesty," felt wrong. So did silence. So did honesty. Before I could decide how to ruin my life, the princess moved. She stepped forward, half a pace, but enough. Her voice cut through the tension, sharp and trembling and brave in a way that made my chest tighten. "Mother, the one who saved me is here." You could hear it. The sound of an empire collectively forgetting how to breathe. The Queen's eyes widened, not much, but enough. Enough that the nobles nearest the throne glanced up in shock before catching themselves and lowering their heads again. "Saved you?" the Queen repeated. The princess nodded quickly, words spilling out now like she'd been holding them back for days. "He pulled me from the wreckage. He fought through the raiders. He stayed when evacuation failed. He carried me when I couldn't walk. He didn't know who I was, Mother. He thought I was just another civilian. The Queen looked at me again. Really looked this time. Not at my clothes. Not at my rank insignia. At my face. The scars. The exhaustion I hadn't been able to hide no matter how much they cleaned me up. A human, she said slowly. Her tone wasn't disgusted. It was careful. You crossed battle lines for my daughter? I shrugged before I could stop myself. The motion earned a sharp inhale from someone behind me. She was injured, I said. Didn't seem like the right time to ask for species ID. A murmur rippled through the nobles. Disbelief. Offense. Rage. The Queen lifted one hand. Silence slammed back into place. You defied our blockade, she continued. You survived a kill zone that erased entire strike teams. You returned her to us alive. She paused. Why? That was the real question. I met her gaze. It felt like standing in front of a star, beautiful, deadly, uncaring. Because, I said, voice steady despite everything. Someone needed to. The Queen stared at me for a long, unreadable moment. Then she turned to her daughter. Is this true? The princess didn't hesitate. Yes. Another pause. Longer this time. The Queen straightened slowly, her expression shifting from shock into something far more dangerous. Calculation. The human will remain, she said. Gasps echoed across the chamber. He will be given protection. Full status. And no one will lay a hand on him without my command. Her eyes returned to mine. This audience is not over. And just like that, I realized something terrifying. Saving her daughter hadn't ended the war. It had just dragged me straight into the center of it. No one moved. Not the nobles. Not the guards lining the walls with weapons that hummed softly, like they were eager. Not even the princess. Because when the AlienQueen said the human will remain, that wasn't a suggestion. It was law, freshly written, still hot enough to burn anyone who questioned it. Her hand lowered slowly, and only then did the room remember how to breathe. I stayed where I was, shoulders squared, jaw tight. Inside? My heart was trying to punch its way out of my ribs. Protection or not, I was standing in the middle of an empire that had been at war with my species for longer than I'd been alive. And now I had their queen's attention. That was not a comfortable place to be. Approach, she said. The word echoed. Final. Unavoidable. I took a step forward. The nobles reacted instantly. Some recoiled, others stiffened, a few openly bristled like predators watching prey get too close to something sacred. I could feel the heat of their stares on my back as I walked down the polished stone floor toward the throne. Each step felt heavier than the last. When I stopped, I was close enough to see the fine details in the Queen's face. The faint lines near her eyes. The subtle asymmetry that made her look real, not some perfect statue. Power had aged her, but it had sharpened her too. You are injured, she said. It wasn't a question. I replied. Field medics patched me up. Her gaze flicked briefly to my hands. I realized then I hadn't managed to scrub all the scars away. Burns. Old cuts. The kind that never fully fade. Marks of survival. You fought trained raiders, she continued. Creatures that butchered entire colonies. You are not augmented. Not enhanced. I shook my head. Just stubborn. A few nobles hissed softly. One of the guards shifted, metal boots scraping stone. The Queen didn't react. Instead, she did something unexpected. She stepped down from the throne. The sound of her boots hitting the floor rang louder than anything else had so far. It sent a ripple through the chamber. Shock, unease, something dangerously close to fear. Queens didn't step down unless something had gone very, very wrong. Or very right. She stopped an arm's length from me. Up close, her presence was overwhelming. Not threatening in a simple, violent way, but absolute. Like gravity decided she was the center of the universe, and everything else needed to adjust. You knew nothing of her identity, the Queen said. Yet you protected her with your life. Yes. You disobeyed evacuation orders. Yes. You remained behind when escape was possible. I hesitated. Then nodded. Yes. Her eyes searched mine, as if she were peeling back layers I didn't even know how to hide. Humans, she said slowly, are known for many things. Adaptability, aggression, reckless courage. The nobles straightened slightly, like they were proud of the accusation. But loyalty, the Queen continued, is not often counted among them. I almost laughed. Instead, I said, then you're talking to the wrong humans. Something flickered in her eyes. Amusement? Before she could respond, a sharp voice cut in from the left. Your Majesty. An elder noble stepped forward, tall and severe, his robes heavy with rank markings. His eyes burned as they locked onto me. This human's presence is a provocation, he said. Our people bleed. Our fleets burn. And now one of them stands before the throne under royal protection? Murmurs of agreement rippled outward. The Queen didn't turn to look at him. She lives, the Queen said calmly. The elder hesitated. Yes, but my daughter lives, the Queen repeated, this time with weight behind the words. Silence fell like a blade. The elder bowed stiffly and stepped back, but the damage was done. I could feel it now, the tension shifting, hardening. I wasn't just an anomaly anymore. I was a problem. The Queen turned slightly, gesturing toward her daughter. Come here. The princess obeyed immediately, moving to stand beside her mother. Up close, I could see how hard she was trying to appear composed. Her hands trembled just enough to give her away. The Queen rested one hand on her shoulder. A subtle gesture. Protective. You were alone, the Queen said softly. In enemy territory. Injured. Surrounded by death. The princess nodded. Yes. And this human did not abandon you. No. Did not demand favor. No. Did not even ask your name. The princess glanced at me, just briefly. He called me kid the entire time. A few nobles looked scandalized. I winced. In my defense, I thought you were like 16. I am 32, the princess said. In my defense, I tried again. You were unconscious for most of that. Something impossible happened. The Queen smiled. Just a little. It vanished almost instantly, but it was real. And it sent a shock through the chamber far greater than any threat could have. The Queen straightened, her expression hardening once more into something regal and dangerous. Know this, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. This human's actions will be recorded. Studied. Judged. Her eyes returned to me. You have earned no reward yet. Fair enough. But, she continued, you have earned my attention. That was worse. Guards stepped forward, not aggressively, but with purpose. The Queen gestured again. He will be housed within the inner citadel, she said. Under my protection. The nobles erupted. This is madness. He is a liability. A symbol of weakness. The Queen raised her voice. Enough. The chamber snapped silent. She turned back to me one last time. Human, she said. You will answer questions. Many of them. Some you will not like. I swallowed. Story of my life. Her gaze lingered. Rest, she ordered. Tomorrow we begin. As the guards moved to escort me away, the princess stepped closer. Quietly, so only I could hear, she said. I told you she'd listen. I met her eyes. I was kind of hoping she wouldn't. She almost smiled. As the doors closed behind us and the throne room disappeared from view, one truth settled in my gut, heavy and undeniable. The Queen hadn't spared me out of gratitude. She was testing me. And if I failed, no amount of saving her daughter would save me. The inner citadel didn't feel like a prison. That was the problem. The corridors were wide and quiet, walls lined with flowing alien light that shifted color as I passed, soft blues, muted golds, deep purples. No bars. No shackles. No armed guards breathing down my neck. Just doors that opened when they decided I was allowed through them. They gave me a room overlooking the capital city. Towers stretched to the horizon, sleek and impossibly tall, traffic flowing through the air like glowing rivers. It was beautiful. It was also very clear I wasn't going anywhere. I slept for exactly 3 hours before the door chimed. "Human," a calm voice said. "You are summoned." Of course I was. 2 guards escorted me, close enough that I could feel the hum of their armor, far enough that they weren't technically restraining me. A reminder of how this worked. The chamber they led me to was smaller than the throne room. Circular. Intimate. No banners. No audience. Just a long table of black stone and the queen waiting at its center. She was alone. That was worse. "Sit," she said. I sat. The door sealed behind me with a soft, final sound. The queen studied me for several long seconds. Not hostile. Not curious. Evaluating. "You are aware," she began, "that your presence here has destabilized several political structures." "Sorry," I said. "I'll try not to do that again." Her eyebrow twitched. "You joke," she said. "Habit," I replied. "Keeps me from panicking." She activated the table. Holographic images flared to life between us: battlefields, ruined ships, burning colonies. I recognized some of them. Others made my stomach tighten. "This is where you found her," the queen said. A wrecked transport appeared, half buried in ash and debris. "Yes." "You were part of the assault force?" "No. Logistics unit. Wrong place, wrong time. Yet you were armed." "Everyone was, after the first hour." The image zoomed in, raiders swarming the wreckage, weapons raised. "You engaged them," she said. "Outnumbered. Outmatched." I shrugged. "They were between me and the exit." "That is not why you stayed." I met her gaze. "No." The image shifted again, me, caught on a security feed, dragging the princess through smoke and fire, one arm hooked under her shoulders, blood streaked across my face. I didn't remember that moment. I remembered the weight. The heat. The way she kept trying to apologize every time she slowed me down. "You could have left her," the queen said softly. "Yes. But you did not." "No." The hologram froze. The queen leaned forward slightly. "Why?" There it was. Not the surface question. The real one. I took a breath. "Because if I had, I wouldn't have liked who I was afterward." The queen's eyes narrowed, not in anger, interest. "You value your self-image above survival?" "Not above," I said. "Alongside." She leaned back, considering that. "Humans are inconsistent," she said. "You destroy worlds, then mourn the ashes. You wage war, then write songs about peace." "Yeah," I said quietly. "We're complicated." Another image appeared. Medical footage. The princess on a triage table. Me in the background, refusing sedation while a medic stitched my side. "You refused treatment until she was stabilized. Someone had to make sure she stayed awake. She was terrified." "I know." The queen's voice lowered. "And you stayed?" "Yes." Silence filled the room. Not empty. Heavy. "You have no rank of importance," the queen said. "No political value. No strategic leverage. Story of my career. Yet," she continued, "my daughter trusts you." That hit harder than anything else. The door slid open behind me. I turned halfway before stopping. The princess entered, dressed simply now, no ceremonial robes, no guards flanking her. Just her. She looked healthier. Stronger. But her eyes locked onto me immediately, like she needed to confirm I was still real. "You sent for me?" she asked her mother. Yes, the Queen said. Because I want you to hear his answers. The princess moved to sit beside me. Too close to be politically appropriate. I felt every noble in the empire screaming somewhere far away. The Queen folded her hands. Tell me, she said to her daughter. What did he say when you asked him why he stayed? The princess didn't hesitate. He said, because leaving you would have been easier, and I don't trust easy choices. I stared at her. I said that? She nodded. You did. I exhaled slowly. Huh. The Queen watched us both. Something shifted behind her eyes. Not softness. Understanding. You were not protecting a princess, the Queen said. You were protecting a person. Yes, I said. That distinction, she replied, may change the fate of worlds. That seemed like an overreaction. Before I could argue, the Queen stood. This session is concluded, she said. For now. The princess looked between us. Mother! The Queen raised a hand. He is not dismissed. I felt my stomach drop. She turned her full attention back to me. Human, she said. There is something you must understand. Let me guess, I said. Saving your daughter didn't make things simpler. It made them far worse, she replied calmly. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You have given my daughter a dangerous idea. I swallowed. What idea is that? The Queen's gaze was sharp enough to cut. That humans, she said, can be trusted. The door opened again. The guards waited. As I stood to leave, the princess caught my sleeve. Softly, with a smile that didn't quite hide her fear, she whispered, Worth it. I didn't answer. Because for the first time since the war began, I wasn't sure anymore. Not about the war. About the ending. They didn't lock me in my room after that. They didn't need to. The city outside my window kept moving, ships gliding between towers, distant lights blinking like a living constellation, but I barely noticed. The Queen's words sat heavy in my chest, turning over and over. You have given my daughter a dangerous idea. Trust. In the middle of a war that had taught both our species to survive by assuming the worst. I was summoned again at dawn. This time, the escort was ceremonial. No weapons drawn. No tension humming in the air. When the doors opened, I wasn't led back into a private chamber. I was brought to the council hall. It was smaller than the throne room, but sharper. Everything here was designed for debate, not ceremony. The semicircle of seats was already filled, fleet commanders, political architects, elders whose names had ended bloodlines. And at the center, the Queen. Standing. Not seated above them. With her daughter beside her. That alone told me everything had already changed. Human, the Queen said as I approached. You stand before this council not as a prisoner, and not as a guest. I stopped where indicated. That's usually where the bad news comes in. A few councillors bristled. One actually snorted despite himself. The Queen allowed it to pass. You are here, she continued, as a variable. That word rolled through the chamber like static. A human variable, one councillor said coldly. Inserted into a closed system of war. The Queen inclined her head. Correct. The princess spoke then, her voice steady. A system that has failed. Silence. The Queen did not stop her. That mattered more than anything else. Our fleets win battles, the princess said. Our strategies are flawless. And yet the war continues. We lose worlds we cannot replace. Humans adapt faster than we predict. They fight without permission. They protect without orders. She glanced at me. They do not fight the way we do. One of the admirals leaned forward. Because they are undisciplined. Because they are human, the princess replied. And that is exactly why he survived where others did not. Eyes turned back to me. Measuring. Recalculating. The Queen raised her hand. This council asked for an answer to a single question. She said. Why did a lone human cross fire lines, defy orders, and risk annihilation for one alien life? Her gaze locked onto me. Answer them. I hadn't prepared a speech, so I didn't give one. Because, I said, wars don't end when one side runs out of ships. They end when someone decides the person in front of them matters more than the idea behind the gun. No applause. No outrage. Just thinking. That was new. The Queen stepped forward. My daughter returned changed, she said. Not weakened. Not broken. Changed. She placed a hand on the princess's shoulder. She no longer speaks of humans as enemies. She speaks of them as people. Murmurs rippled again, this time uncertain. Empires, the Queen continued, do not fall because of kindness. They fall because of rigidity. She turned back to me. You will return to your people. Every muscle in my body tensed. Not as a hostage, she said calmly. Not as a threat. The council stiffened. You will return as proof. Proof of what? I asked. That even in war, the Queen said, a human chose restraint over victory. She straightened, her voice carrying weight that history would remember. Hostilities between our forces in the outer sectors will cease. Negotiations will begin. Slowly. Carefully. A counselor protested. Because of one human? No, the Queen replied. Because of one choice. The chamber went silent. Not in shock this time, but in acceptance. The Queen stepped closer to me, lowering her voice so only I could hear. You did not end the war, she said. Do not mistake this. I wouldn't dare. But you reminded us, she continued, what it costs to continue it. She extended her hand. I took it. The grip was firm. Final. When I left the Citadel hours later, escorted to a neutral vessel, the princess walked with me to the platform. Guess this is where I say goodbye, I said. For now, she replied. She hesitated, then added, you know they'll study you. Argue about you. Use you as an example. Yeah, I said. We do that too. She smiled, genuinely this time. When they tell this story, she said, they'll call you a hero. I shook my head. They shouldn't. Why not? Because heroes are rare, I said. Choices aren't. The ship's hatch opened. As I stepped inside, I looked back once more, at an alien princess who'd survived, at an empire recalculating its future, at a queen who had learned that power wasn't always loud. The war didn't end that day. But it slowed. And sometimes, that's how peace actually starts. Not with victory. But with one human deciding not to walk away.